Hello everyone and welcome to this week's episode of the Minecraft Disney World Q&A. This week we're going to walk around Epcot a little bit and I'm going to answer quite a number of questions that have been thrown my way this week regarding all things Disney related. In fact, I might have to go on a couple of rides here just to make sure I have enough to do here in Epcot while we're answering questions. In any case, these are all questions that people have submitted through leaving comments on previous videos. And let's just jump right in, why don't we, while we hop on Spaceship Earth, which is a ride I really love. First up this week, we have Alan MGM, who asks, "Hey Rob, I noticed that Disney has made sequels to some of their classic movies, but not everyone likes them, and some people say that they're bad movies. What do you think about this? Do you like them or not? If you like them, which ones and why?" So I guess what you're referring to is there was a trend for a while of making direct-to-DVD sequels for some of the classic films. Like I think there's a Cinderella 2 out there. I know there's a Lion King like 1.5 or all sorts of just straight to DVD titles. And what they really were the Michael Eisner era. Disney sort of cashing in on some of the names that they've had for so many years. They made a lot of money. That's why they make them. But a lot of people don't like them because they are straight to DVD. They are the products of, I think, a studio that says this is for the money, not this is for telling this story. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't be good. I personally haven't really seen any of them because I've never looked at a Disney classic where I thought to myself, yeah, I really want to see a sequel to this. Like, The Lion King was a great film, and it was a great, complete film. I didn't really need any more Lion King after that, so I just never watched it. That said, they sell well because people, to an extent, like them. They sell well because they're straight to DVD, so they're cheaper, lower budgeted, and that sort of lends to the idea that they're not as high quality. I don't think it's a great practice for Disney to do, but then again, Disney does have bills to pay, so I guess it's going to occasionally happen. I think what you're seeing now is you're seeing less of that straight to DVD because it has such a terrible image, but you're still seeing it happen anyway. Like, let's be honest. I mean, a lot of people like Cars, and that's perfectly fine, but I think if you looked at it, if you took a step back and looked at it, critically, Cars is probably among Pixar's lower acclaimed films, yet financially it was amazing. And then, now you see a Cars 2 and you see a Planes, and Disney's definitely not opposed to cashing in on names that are popular for more money. And it is totally possible that those cash-ins could have good stories, although it's usually less likely because they usually have a smaller budget and they're not given the same attention. This ride is going to take forever. Let's walk through it, huh? So I guess that's my answer. I don't know if they're good or bad because I haven't seen any of them, but I think it's telling. I've never seen any of them because I've never felt the desire to see any of them, which I think is telling that they're not really necessary. They're not being made because there's that story there. They're being made because there's a big payout at the end of that road. Anyway, great question, though. Next question is from, wow, I wonder when these people joined. CMO Minecraft, who asks, "Hey Rob, great job on your videos, thanks. Here's my question. Because of new hits for Pirates of the Caribbean movies, do you think we'll be seeing a Pirates of the Caribbean land?" I'm going to give you two answers. I'm going to give you the boring adult business answer, and I'm going to give you the kid answer. So the boring adult business answer is no, I don't think you'll ever see that. I think we are seeing Pirates at its tail end. I mean, they might still make a couple of more. I think they're in the works, but Pirates' popularity sort of reached its peak with 2 and 3, and it's sort of been waning since then. So I just don't think it'll attract enough popularity to warrant a whole land based on it. The kid in me, though, says that would be totally awesome. Like a Tortuga land in Disney World would be sweet, with maybe a giant boat and Jack Sparrow, and I think that would be really fun. Maybe more rides based on the movies. That'd be totally cool. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to happen. And that's fine though, because I think the Pirates of the Caribbean itself is a nice classic. This is one of my favorite parts of this ride, by the way, seeing the old computers, back when computers took up entire rooms and cost like millions of dollars. And then in the next scene, here they are in the garage. All right, next question. We have Devin on Minecraft, who asks, Liberty Square does not have a lot of rides. What would you add there? That's a really cool question. Liberty Square in the Magic Kingdom does, in fact, not have a lot of rides. It's got, the Hall of Presidents. It's got the Country Bear Jamboree. I guess you can count... Yeah, the Haunted Mansion is part of Liberty Square. I don't know why I would think that would be different. Yeah, it's part of Liberty Square. And then it's got, Tom Sawyer's Island, which I wouldn't say is like a ride, but it's a feature. So what would you add? That's a tough question, because the thing is there's not a lot of space there. You're working with sort of a limited amount of space. Let's warp over to... Let's go to the hub. So what would I add? I don't know. I think the question is, what should it be about? Because the Haunted Mansion isn't very much about America, right? It sort of got lumped into Liberty Square because there's no New Orleans Square in Disney World. But hopefully, if we use that to set a precedent in which Liberty Square does not have to be about, the founding of our country, then it sort of frees it up, and you could do sort of anything that's frontier based, maybe something closer to the Frontierland area that sort of melds the two, and you see something involving, I love New York in its early years. I think it's got a very distinct visual theme, but what kind of attraction, I don't know. It might have to be a show. I don't think you'd have room for a whole ride unless you were to break up Tom Sawyer's Island and turn that into a ride area, which you could certainly do. Take that island, flatten it in a sense, and turn it into that's kind of Frontierland. What am I saying? I don't even think that's not Liberty Square. That's Frontierland. So never mind. You don't even have that. So you have very little space to work with. So I'm not sure what you would do with that. I guess all I could say is whatever it is, it would be a show, because that's something that you could fit people in. Good question. That's my question for all of you this week. What would you put in Liberty Square? And now that you've seen me mess up all of the territories and thinking that Tom Sawyer was part of Liberty Square, you'll know what areas you can and can't work with. Next up, we've got Sean Blue Revamped Minecraft Let's Plays. That's a long name. How'd you get that on YouTube? Once again, another great episode. Thank you. My question to you is, what do you think of shows like Jammers and other small street shows? Do you enjoy them? In any way, shape, or form, are they profitable to Disney? So, I guess obviously what I'm about to say is completely opinion. I've never read anything or saw anything regarding this sort of stuff on an official Disney, basis. So it's just speculation. First off, I love them. I really enjoy them. I most particularly love the improv actors in Hollywood studios that go around and play out little skits. I think those are fantastic. I love them. If I could go around all day and just watch them play out scenes, I would. What was that? Is that a heartbeat? That was weird. So I totally enjoy them. Hope there's plenty of them in every park, just because I think it's really fun, and I think it's the sort of thing everybody can enjoy, which is like the point of Disney, right? Is enjoyment for the whole family. Now, as for profitable to Disney, directly, no, obviously not, right? But then again, nothing in Disney is directly profitable unless you're talking about food and merchandise and entry, right? Dumbo isn't profitable because you're not paying a fee to get onto Dumbo. You're just paying a fee to get into the park, right? So in theory, you could strip all the rides out, and then you'd still make money because people pay to go into the park. There's just nothing to do. So the idea is attractions and shows like this are incentive to sell that ticket. So I think if they could measure how many people are watching, then you can measure the you could give it value. You can say, look, we've got a couple hundred people a day who watch all of these shows. It's clearly something that people may not come to the park specifically to see, but it's something they take a part in while they're there. It's of course harder to measure than a ride because you don't have somebody there, or you don't have like a sensor that can track that sort of information. But without a doubt, I think it's got value. And I think it has added value in that it keeps people off of rides. And I think that's a value to them because, you want to keep lines shorter. And so if you get 50 people watching a couple of improv actors, even if it's for 10 minutes, that's 10 minutes those 50 people aren't adding to a line. So you throw that throughout the park and it certainly helps. So I think the short of it is they are beneficial, and I think Disney has ways of measuring how beneficial they are, but it's not going to have a direct profit. But then again, nothing is. Space Mountain doesn't have a direct profit, unless I guess you count the merchandise at the end. But then again, you could take out the ride and just have a merchandise shop, and then that's where the profit comes from. So it's all about incentivizing. It's all about, making people want to stay there longer, buy a ticket, eat there, buy merchandise, stuff like that. That's where that money comes from. Now, it used to be, back in the day, you had tickets, and the tickets were based on what kind of ride they are. And that's why you'll hear people talk about, Space Mountain's an e-ticket attraction. They call it that because back then the e-tickets were the biggest and best rides, and they cost the most. And so you did have rides making direct profits, but I think it became too much of a hassle because you'd go to Disney and then all of a sudden, like, you can't enjoy certain rides because you didn't budget for it. So having that sort of one entry price for everything is a good idea. I always find it funny that video games are taking the opposite turn, right? Theme parks used to be you buy a ticket book and you use specific tickets for rides, and now it's become general entry. Video games used to be general entry. You pay one price, you get the whole game, and now it's starting to really, unfortunately, break down where it's you pay $60, you get the base game, and then you buy the DLC, and then you buy the expansion packs, and then you get the battle packs and all this other stuff. You get the exclusive for pre-ordering at GameStop. It's becoming more exclusive, which is a shame because that's no fun. Hopefully it'll flip back. Great question, though. I love questions like that because I love thinking about, as much as I love the parks for the magic and the attractions and things like that, I also do love thinking about it as an operation, because that's what it is. It's like Disney World is the sort of operation that, takes the manpower of like a small country to get going and work. So I love thinking about it in terms like that, and learning about it in terms like that. Okay, the next question is a long one, and for this one, actually, let's go to Warp AK, because it's Animal Kingdom related. Also, I don't know if it's my internet or something, but these chunks are loading super slow lately. I think it's my internet. Anyway, Jeremiah Rivera asks a long one, and I'm going to go into it. I'm going to go into everything, and then we'll go into it piece by piece. So, he asks, I had some questions for you regarding the Animal Kingdom. You may have touched upon the subject a few times, but I haven't had a chance to watch all of them yet. That's fine. 1. Are you afraid that Disney will give Avatar too much focus in the park? And that it will take away from the original Disney magic, creativity, feel of the Animal Kingdom? The knowledge of the Tree of Life being transformed at night into Avatar's home tree kind of bothers me because they're changing something that has so much classic Disney heritage from The Lion King and turning it into something that doesn't even have roots in the company. 2. Is this a sign that they will continue to remove/change things in Disney theme parks that once had to do with the classics and make room for other non-company related films? It seems like an attempt to draw more money. And 3. Are you personally optimistic about the new expansion, or do you see this as going downhill in a few years? Do you think that since Disney doesn't own Avatar, there's possibly a fallout with the company and that the idea might not work? So I love this question because, again, it makes me think about Disney not only as a creative outlet, but also as a operation. So let's go into it. Am I afraid that Disney will give Avatar too much focus in the park? At first they will. I'm not afraid because I think it's just this sort of natural swelling of a new expansion. I think remember a while back, Stitch's Great Escape opened, and they had Stitch prank the castle, Cinderella's castle, and they had like Stitch like graffitied it and everything, and a lot of people got upset because they thought it was, it was like almost like if you were to graffiti something religious, it was like untouchable, but it was because it's something new. They're going to promote it. They're going to promote it a lot. Will the home tree thing last for a long time? That really depends on how popular it is. I don't think they'll give it too much focus. I think they'll give it enough that it promotes the park and sort of breathes new life into the park, because I do think people have been waiting for some new things here in the Animal Kingdom. I do think it's weird that they're doing something that's not Disney related. To clarify, I actually looked into this because I was confused. I never remember reading about this way back when the park opened. But as far as I can tell, there's no actual direct confirmable connection between the Lion King and the Tree of Life. Now, Rafiki has a tree called the Tree of Life, and they are similar style trees. And I think Disney definitely sort of uses that similarity to their advantage, but I haven't been able to find any source that claims that the Tree of Life in Animal Kingdom was designed and based on Rafiki's tree. I think it was more like they saw the opportunity to link the two, and they did. And I think the only reason that really sticks out to me and matters to me is because I never saw the Tree of Life as something that had roots in classic Disney history. I thought as much as Spaceship Earth, or as much as, as much as Spaceship Earth, it was something created for Disney World. Although it was funny, what I was about to say was, the Chinese theater in the MGM, but there you go. There's another thing that, has its roots in Disney World, but it has no connection to Disney. That's a famous movie theater in Hollywood. Disney, I'm sure, premiered films there in the past, but that's not the sort of thing that, it didn't come from a Disney movie. And I think people look at Hollywood studios as fondly as any other theme park at this point. I think it's something with time. Maybe right now we see Avatar as this weird thing that has nothing to do with Disney, but 10, 15, 20 years down the line, the idea of the Tree of Life not looking like a home tree might be crazy to us because we just get so used to it. And who knows, knowing Disney, and this will get into your part 2 a little bit, but, there's nothing saying they can't eventually just buy Avatar, right? It's not like they're not buying everything else up right now. Or partnering with it, They partner with MGM for so long for the MGM studios. So part 2, is this a sign that they will continue to remove/change things that once had to do with the classics and make room for non-company related films? It seems like an attempt to draw money. Well, I mean, yes, it is. And let's be realistic for a moment. That's what the whole theme park is. It's an attempt to draw money. Do I think they'll do more of that? I think no classic film is safe. Whoops. I think no classic film is safe. I think if an attraction doesn't perform well and it doesn't draw people to the parks, then yeah, it's definitely up on the chopping block. And that's sort of unfortunate because we like to think of some of these attractions as, historical and we want to preserve them. But at the same time, this isn't a museum or a protected, are we going here? What's going on here? Are they talking? I guess we'll go back. It's not a protected land, it's something that evolves, and that's what Walt wanted, was it to evolve. So if something from a classic movie does stop performing, then yeah, it should. Let's warp to Everest. Now, specifically for non-Disney stuff, I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think it might be a mix of non-Disney. I think look at Disney's recent history. They're buying Marvel, them buying Star Wars. They just bought the rights to make and release more Indiana Jones films. I think Disney's very much in the business of buying properties and utilizing them, not just dealing with non-company properties. They like to make them company properties, which is why I do think Avatar is weird. I think Avatar is also weird because we think of it now as Avatar, that one movie, and I think it's fallen out of the public eye. But we have to remember James Cameron's planning to do a whole trilogy, like another trilogy on top of the one that's out. 4 films, possibly more. So, again, 5 years from now, Avatar might be a huge thing again. And if that's the case, it could become relevant and not as weird. And then finally, am I personally optimistic about the new expansion, or do I see it going downhill? Again, like I mentioned, right now it's just so weird because I don't think of Avatar as something worth remembering. It was that one movie that I didn't even think was amazing. It wasn't bad, it just wasn't great. It was super forgettable. It hung on the 3D element. So, am I optimistic? I'm cautiously curious. I don't know. I have no idea how it's going to go. It could go one way or the other. It'll be interesting that they're committing to such a big expansion, because what if the first movie comes out and it turns out, hey, America and the world just doesn't like Avatar anymore? What are they going to do? Are they committed? I don't know. As for like a fallout, I think legally they're going to be so locked down on this that even if James Cameron and Bob Iger hated each other's guts, they would have the rights to keep these rides going as long as they wanted. But that's just speculation. Anyway, I get the impression, because this is the first day that I'm seeing MC Magic on 1.72, that their plugins aren't fully functional, because a lot of these are working slowly, and I can get out of the carts, which technically you can't do when the plugins are all working fine. So let's hop back in the queue and we'll head back out. The following questions, I've got a couple more, but I'm going to sort of rapid fire them because I think they're shorter questions that we can get through. Ooh, I already went this way. Anyway, let's go through those. How about it? First up, we have Kenneth Vids, who asks, who designed the castles of both Disneyland and Disney World Castle, and why is the castle in Disney World bigger than the one in Disneyland? So both Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty's castle was designed, I assume you mean like visually, it was designed by a man named Herbert Ryman, who is a friend of Walt's and who worked at Disney and worked on like Pinocchio and Dumbo and a lot of the animated films. He also worked doing art for, he did a lot of concept art for Disney World, or Disneyland, I think it was. I don't know about Disney World, possibly both, when they were trying to secure funding. And he designed the visual look of both Sleeping Beauty's castle for Disneyland and then Cinderella's castle for Disney World. Why is one taller than the other? Because bigger, better, newer. I think I'm sure if they could have, or they thought to, they would have made Cinderella's Sleeping Beauty's castle bigger. But it's big enough to a height. Any higher and they have to put on a flashing red beacon for low-flying airplanes, which would kind of kill the mood. So that's who designed him, Herbert Ryman. Look him up. Unfortunately, he passed away in the late 80s, but he has a lot of history at Disney. Next up, we have Nick999, who says, Disney World added the Art of Animation Resort, which is themed around Cars, Nemo, and The Lion King. This got me thinking, do you think Disney is going to start basing more and more areas outside of the parks on Disney movies instead of original ideas? Also, do you think Disney is eventually just going to leave original ideas behind and base everything, including rides, restaurants, etc., off movies? Ooh, I mean, my short, quick answer is I hope not. But I could also see it happening. Just looking at the theme of Disney buying up property and using that properties, I could see it happening. I hope not, because I think so many great things have come from original ideas. So let's cross our fingers and hope Bob Iger. Then again, Bob Iger's already he's going to pick a successor and then resign as CEO. So, he's already like a step above Eisner in that he's not like trying to grip onto this power. So who knows, whoever steps in maybe might have a different tune and might put a renewed focus on original stuff. Great question. Kevin Klinky asks, I know your favorite park is Epcot, but I'm really confused. What's Horizons? Oh dear boy. Horizons, I feel bad for people who never got to experience Horizons. And I know people my age who never got to experience Horizons just because they didn't get down to the park until after that. Horizons was a ride where Mission Space is now. It used to be Horizons, and It was a slow-moving Omnimover ride about the Kali River Rapids. I wasn't even sure where I was going. It was about... Oh, wait. Why do I keep getting on rides when I know the plugin's not working right? It was about living in the future. It followed this family that had members living in 3 different forms of the future. You had a family living in space or retired parents. You had, some kids living in a city underwater, and then you had some living in a farm in the desert that they terraformed to be, farm worthy. And I think the general theme of the ride was, hey, let's take a look at what we thought the future was going to be like in the past and what we think it'll be like today. And I think it was a fantastic theme. I would love to do a video at some point that just goes in depth into the history of Horizons, because it is, I think, my all-time favorite ride, and it is for a lot of people. I think it strikes every chord in what makes a good Disney attraction. In the meantime, all I would say is you should go look up a ride-through and watch a ride-through, and you get the full experience. Luckily, it exists. There are people who are recreating it in CG, so you could actually ride through it almost like Minecraft, but it's like its own program. Check it out. It's really cool. It's got a lot of history. They actually just came out with a set of shirts for the anniversary, so it is a much-loved ride that's no longer there. Great question. Jakey Jurin asks, if you could add or extend or replace anything at Hollywood Studios, what would it be? I hear there's plans for a Planes-themed ride and maybe a Cars Land. What are your thoughts on them? I think I've spoken at length of what I think about original ideas versus IPs. But to answer your first question, I would love to see more parts of the park that focus on movie making rather than the movies themselves. I think that's what a lot of Hollywood Studios, then MGM, was based on. And I think we're seeing it less and less and less as each thing gets removed and replaced. I would totally love to see more about that, especially because filmmaking has evolved so much from even the mid-'80s, It's not what it used to be. So to have stuff that teaches people how that works, I think would be great fun. And then finally this week, we've got through them all already. We have Twisted Legacy, who says, hey, Rob, I was just wondering, what is your favorite resort in Walt Disney World? Also, what would you do to improve it or make it more fun to stay at? My favorite resort, although I've only stayed there once, is the Contemporary. I don't know why. I just something about it aesthetically pleases me, and it just, having the monorail go through it, everything. I love everything about it. The one thing I would change, and this might be seen as blasphemous for people who are, longtime Disney fans, is I would remove that mural in the lobby, in the atrium, and put something else there. I think maybe it's me, maybe it's my taste in like art aesthetics, but it just seems like such a 1970s styled mural, and the Contemporary in its name is supposed to be contemporary. So I feel like if you took that out and put something new there, or put something there so that you can replace it every couple of years with something new, that would be really cool. So that's what I would change, and make it cheaper so I could stay there every time. Anyway, we did it. We got through so many questions this week. If you have a question, just leave it in the YouTube comments, and I try to answer all of them, whether it's on here on the video or just in text in the comments themselves. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a fantastic week. Monday's tomorrow. I hope everyone makes the most of the week because it makes it so much better. And I hope to see you all here next week for the next episode of the Minecraft Disney Q&A. Bye, everybody.